Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a Walking Dead video for today, leading up to the second half of The Walking Dead Season 8. In this one, we're going to give our thoughts on the mid-season premiere, which is Episode 9, being extended. It's going to be an 82-minute episode, and then we'll get into more of your guys' Q&A questions. And I'll put the link in the description as per usual, so you guys can go ahead and check this one out from both skybound.com and comicbook.com. So we got the announcement that the return episode for Carl's, and spoiler warning if you're not caught up, Carl's final episode is going to be 82-minute runtime. So that's an additional, 22 counting commercials, so you're getting probably an extra, maybe not a whole half, but close to another half episode on top of, the regular runtime episode. So instead of it being 42 minutes with intro and commercials, you're probably looking at, let's see, maybe closer to an hour runtime, something like that, or 50, 55, somewhere around there. So that's pretty good. So pretty good news. I mean, it's Carl's last episode of the series, so it's going to be one, I'm looking forward to it, but at the same time, it's kind of like the Tyrese episode, if you guys remember, where Season 5, they started a half season with a pretty big character death in a zombie bite fashion, which is kind of a sad way to go out. You can have a character be killed off in kind of a climactic battle or something like this, or you could have explosives or them getting shot or things like this happening that are pretty, or stabbed with a sword like the governor in Michonne, with him, her kind of killing him and then him being put down after. So you can do these kind of, climactic deaths, or you can do kind of the more sadder, gets bitten by a zombie, and then we get to have maybe one more episode where they get to say their goodbyes and that kind of thing. It reminds me most of a character that was killed off in the Walking Dead comic book series recently. Those of you guys who are caught up in the Walking Dead comic book series, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I won't spoil it because it's still fairly recent, but it does feel a lot like one recently that was a pretty big death in the comic book series as well. So looking forward to it. I'm still, producing the videos for you guys. You can keep sending me your questions. We can keep making them, that kind of stuff. Like I said, not every day, but, as many as I can do for you guys and as many as makes sense to do over the break. And I do have lots more coming for you guys for this year, of course. And I know there's a lot of talk about The Walking Dead and TV series, whether or not it's going to, continue on for many more years, whether or not it's going to wrap up in a couple years, this kind of thing. But I can make one promise to you guys. I'll do everything in my power to keep producing videos right up until the end of the series. So whenever the series does end, if it's season 10, if it's 15, if it's 13, you guys have my commitment that I will be producing with you guys here until the very end. So if you're not subscribed and you're interested in subscribing and seeing those videos over the next few years, then definitely subscribe to the bottom left if you're new. So, I like it when they do the extended episodes. I think it's a great thing, and we'll get to see maybe a few more minutes with Carl in his last episode, which is, just crazy to even think about, crazy to even say, but that's what they're doing. So we'll see how this feels, how this goes, and of course, I'm most intrigued with the whole Carl situation on how this affects Rick and the episodes in the back half. So how this is going to affect Rick's decision logic for the finale and how natural this feels, or if this just feels like maybe something they did to try to get those ratings back or something like that. So I guess we'll see. That's what Scott Gimple has said, is that, the reason why they did this was because of the story and what we're going to see in the second half. So we'll see if that makes sense. We'll see if that's true. Or at least in our opinion, if that feels natural to us and it's like, okay, now I get why they killed Carl off. I get it now. It makes sense now. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, and I'm kind of thinking like it better be really good to have to kill Carl off, because Carl is such an important character, and it's going to be tricky, so we'll see what happens. It also says, while the Walking Dead fans have largely shown their displeasure with the AMC show's choice to suddenly take out Carl, director of the mid-season 8 premiere and executive producer Greg Nicotero believes audiences will come around when the new episode airs. So he said, quote unquote, "It's a beautiful episode, and the people that clearly are upset about losing Carl and questioning where the show goes without Carl, I really do believe that a lot of people will put those feelings aside when they watch this episode, because they're really going to get an opportunity to make some peace with it," Nicotero told Entertainment Weekly. I mean, that's what I think. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. So, again, we're going to have to wait and see for the mid-season premiere, and that's probably the thing that I'm most just interested in this half is to see if it's going to like fix. Because a lot of people are really upset at The Walking Dead right now. A lot of people are like, they really identify with Carl. Maybe they grew up with Carl, especially some of the younger viewers that are close in age to Chandler Riggs. So we're going to see how this affects the series, positively or negatively. It's certainly interesting to find out. Rick actor Andrew Lincoln, previously the upcoming run of the episodes while speaking at comicbook.com, ominously promising a dark road ahead. Quote, all of the back eight in this terrible death, Lincoln concludes, this emotion is unending throughout the whole cast, and I think it's palpable. The cost of this battle is much more full because of what happened. And that is true. I have to agree with him there that if you don't have any significant casualties in the war, it doesn't feel like a war. You do have to have at least one big death as part of this war. I thought originally it was going to be Morgan. I know a lot of you guys thought it was too. But, surprisingly, they went with Carl. So, at least, if nothing else, they're pulling out all the stops. They're trying to keep the series going on strong. They're, pulling out some big character deaths here and there. Maybe going a bit of a Game of Thrones approach where you kill off some of the characters people don't expect so that they don't have this idea of plot armor and certain characters being safe. And I think for those purposes, it certainly makes sense for those reasons. It's just, of course, the question of, okay, but you kill him off, you get Season 8 levels up, right? It feels more important because you have big character deaths in it. But then later on, what do you do when you don't have him there? Like characters like Andrea, who were killed off in Season 3, is like, whoa, big finale, kill off Andrea. But then afterwards in 4, 5, 6, and 7, and even, 8 too, you don't have her around, so you can't do those storylines with her that you could in the comics. So we'll have to see. It's definitely a trade-off. At this point, Rick has nearly lost everything. Quote-unquote, he has his extended family, Lincoln said. He's not Judith's father, but he's her dad. And, of course, well said. I like that. I always fond of that saying. And, of course, Michonne. They're in love, but there are times in the back eight that I felt that the show was very courageous in that we didn't know what we're doing. That doesn't sound so good. You guys can read the quote for yourselves. Season 1 through 4, we're still investigating and work out what the show is. Still, I think we're trying to do that, but it felt a bit like those seasons in this back 8. So it feels like, so that's interesting. And maybe we'll just make the whole video about these interviews, because that basically is it for the interviews. Or we'll do like one Q&A afterwards. So they're putting The Walking Dead in a kind of a place where it's not so easy to say what it is, and there's a lot of uncertainty, right? So it feels to me, what he's kind of saying here is that there was a lot of uncertainty in the beginning because they didn't know what the show was going to be, how it was going to be received, whether or not it was going to be worth doing, because of course the zombie apocalypse series, you have to have a pretty big budget. It's not as easy to do as a procedural crime drama, cookie cutter show where, it's pretty cheap to produce. The Walking Dead does cost a lot of money to produce. It is a big show to produce. You have to do all the zombies. You have to get people like Greg Nicotero and the showrunners, everybody else, all the directors and writers, and because it's episodic, or it's an ongoing story rather than just having like one episode, something happens in that episode, then the next episode it didn't matter, right? It's like totally different, like a comedy, like The Simpsons or something, where you don't have ongoing story arcs and ongoing change in characters and deaths and effects in the future. The Walking Dead is a harder show to do than a lot of these other series. It's much harder for them to do The Walking Dead than to do one of these easier shows, in air conditioning and this kind of thing. It's way harder to do The Walking Dead than to do something like a lot of these other regular shows that we see on NBC and things like that. They wanted to turn, NBC almost turned The Walking Dead into a procedural crime drama without zombies. Does it have to have zombies? Anyway, you can find videos on that in the past if you haven't seen that. It's true, and thank God they didn't get a chance to actually destroy The Walking Dead like that. So AMC took it, and they did. I think they've done a pretty damn good job with it of creating this world. But having it in a sense of uncertainty to where you really don't know what's going to happen. You really don't know, what this feels like or what this is going to look like. And, maybe them kind of feeling like, okay, we're too set in the comics. We're too set in this comfort zone. We want to shake things up with the show to make it interesting again. And by killing Carl, you shake a lot of things up. You get a little bit of that fear, the Walking Dead feel, where you really don't know who's going to survive. You really don't know what's going to happen in the future. And you put that back into the show, which the original comics had to begin with. The original comics, you have no idea who's going to die, when, or where, and what's going to happen. And they pull out all the stops, and Kirkman does crazy things. You wouldn't expect it, and then it hits you. But the TV series, they want that to have the same kind of uncertainty. They want that to have the same kind of questioning of what's going to happen and what's going on, and how many there's an episode name right there, right? How many seasons are going to get? Does this mean that this is not going to? And just kind of put everybody. It's kind of like the Negan, who did Negan kill thing. It's like this degree of uncertainty where you don't know who it's going to be, and you get all this kind of interest around the show because people are not certain of what's going to happen. They're not sure what's going to happen, and that's what they wanted to put back into The Walking Dead. And I think they've done that. If that was their goal, then accomplished. So we'll see how the writing, works this out, and how the story turns out in this back half, and just what it looks like. And we'll just do one Q&A question for today. It's from Trebecca's Finest, who says, "Hey Trev, my birthday is this Sunday, so happy birthday to Trebecca. And if you guys have birthday wishes, that kind of thing, feel free to send them to me. But as long as they're real, don't make shit up, okay, guys? It's not cool, right? So happy birthday to him or her. Trev Q&A, do you think who do you think is the lead of Fear now that Morgan is going to Fear? I always thought the lead was Nick or Madison, but now I think of maybe Morgan. I think of you. Make Morgan the lead of the show might be similar to The Walking Dead. So who's going to be the lead for Fear? So I think even though Morgan is switching from The Walking Dead into Fear, I still think Madison will be the lead of Fear. I think that Morgan is going to bring a lot of people over, and he's going to be very popular this season. He's going to be a very prominent character. He'll be an A-lister. I think he'll kind of be, a character like similar to how he was in The Walking Dead, but maybe a little bit higher. But Madison should still be number one on the call sheet because it is her show, and Morgan is crossing over to help, but he's not taking over the show. It should still be her family show. It should still be a show about the Clarks and those characters, and Morgan should just be helping them support. I don't think he should be a carry. Madison and the others, Nicholas and Alicia, they should be the carries in that show, and he should be coming in to support and help the show continue on stronger and help the show do well. I don't think it would be his role to come in and take over the show as the number one lead and everyone else support. That doesn't really make sense with the most screen time and anything like that. I'm sure at first they'll have a lot, but afterwards, you should kind of have it still be about Madison and about the family, because those are the characters the first 3 seasons. That's their show, and he's coming over to help. He's not coming over to take over. At least that's my prediction or my thoughts on how I think it should be done. Anyway, that'll be it for today's video, guys. I hope you liked it. If you did, please don't forget to thumb it up below. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to the bottom. Turn on notifications. Click the bell below if you want to get emails about new videos I've produced and released in the channel. You can do that. That's it for this video. I'll see you guys again soon for another. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace. See you guys probably tomorrow. Just subscribe somehow.